Let's go and turn this thing on. Oh, well, might help if you had power first. I got the power! Okay, blooper. Next. G'day folks, Jordan here. And today I had the choice between, well, spending $10 or, well, not really spending $10, but since I've been kind of dry on video ideas as of late, I know I have some more ideas on the brain and but I'm going to wait for those until after I'm done with the busy part of school. So that's kind of the thing right now. So this is something quick and easy. But I had the choice of, with $10, either buying a headset, a gaming headset in particular, that had only one working speaker, or this computer. And obviously, you can see I picked the computer. This machine is a custom build. I don't know how old it is. It's not particularly modern or powerful, but I figured it's still interesting to look at nonetheless, just for a video's sake. So, let's get into this thing. I believe this is an old Antec case, and I believe the Antec logo would have went right there. I could be wrong though, but I believe it is an Antec case. On the inside, we have a DVD-RW drive. This is an IDE DVD-RW drive. I'm so sorry that this lighting is crap, but the sun's right here, and I didn't want to shoot anywhere else. Below that, we have a 3.5-inch floppy drive, although I think the bezel's a little bit on the discombobulated side, but it's not the worst thing I've seen. Although I think this thing has something to do with the front panel, but yeah. There's also 2 USB ports on the front, and I believe that's some kind of slat for a vent. I'm not sure. On the back, we have an Antec power supply. We also have a big Antec 120mm fan, I'm assuming. We also have the motherboard and some interesting things down below. The motherboard has PS2 keyboard and mouse, SPDIF out as well as optical out, parallel, serial, 4 USB ports, as well as a LAN port, although I suppose on a higher end model there could have been dual LAN here, but I don't think this motherboard has dual LAN equipped. We have onboard surround audio and a video card, as well as 2 additional USB ports broke out down below. And that's about it. So I did put a screw on the case. It's just one of those little stupid compact screws, but it keeps the case on. So I'm going to go grab a screwdriver, take that screw off, and actually move into a spot with better lighting, and we can take a look at what's inside. So here we have the inside. It's a 350 watt power supply in this case. And here's the motherboard. This is a Socket 775 motherboard based on the Intel 915 chipset. And underneath this cooler here is a hyper-threaded Pentium 4 CPU running at 3.2 gigahertz. I don't really need no more Pentium 4s, but since I bought this one pretty much cheap and whatever, I mean, $10 was my limit on this thing, I couldn't let it go. I mean, this thing is a decent little system. It can make for something that if I need to run Windows XP, I probably could. If not, at the very least, I have parts. The video card is a GeForce PCX. I think it's a 5750. I can't remember. It's a 128 meg graphics card, and it actually runs on PCI Express X16, so that's pretty nice. I would have figured that this was an AGP system if it was socket 478, or even if it was socket 775, I would have expected that to be an AGP card, given how tiny the cooler is. But no, it's actually PCI Express, so that's quite nice. And this motherboard actually, as a matter of fact, well, even though it's not being used, it does have SATA ports, so that's pretty nice. But all the IDE channels are being used up at the moment, and I believe this motherboard actually has quad IDE or something like that, I think, because it seems as if, one of them might actually be the floppy thing, and there might just be triple channel IDE on the system, because it does have an onboard RAID controller to my knowledge. Nothing fancy, but I think it has something similar to that. And this case actually is pretty decent, as it has 3 extra hard drive slots if you wanted to, or 3 additional hard drive slots in addition to the one up here, right underneath the floppy drive if you wanted to mount additional hard drives. And there's also 4 5.25-inch bays, which are behind that door, which you could use, which is pretty nice as well. So, yeah. The only downside to this is that it only has DDR memory, not DDR2. I suppose it's not the end of the world because there's 4 slots, and you could probably upgrade this thing to 4 gigs of RAM if you wanted to. I believe that's the maximum. If not, it'd be 2 gigs of RAM. But oh well. I mean, you can't have everything in life. And besides, DDR memory is probably more than good enough if you're going to run Windows XP. But, you know, DDR2 would have been a lot better, given that my Gateway GT4024 down there on the floor has DDR2 memory. Although it's a more powerful system, and it's a little bit newer than this one probably is by about a year or two. This is a full ATX motherboard, given that it does have 7 expansion slots, 4 PCI, 2 PCI Express X1, and 1 X16. I believe this has 2 250 gig drives. I'm not entirely sure. I can't read what's on this one in particular, but I definitely know that this one is a 250 gig Western Digital Caviar SE IDE hard drive. So I'm going to guess that this is the exact same capacity, given that they're both hooked up and working. This does have a floppy drive, like I mentioned earlier, as well as a DVD burner drive that is actually IDE, which is pretty interesting. It's a very early DVD burner. One thing that really surprised me, too, is that there's no blown capacitors on the motherboard. Given the era that this thing was probably built in, that really is surprising. Either that or somebody did a really good job at recapping the motherboard at some point with all fresh capacitors or something, just because, you know, there's nothing visually wrong with any of the capacitors, no leaking electrolyte or anything. So that's really interesting. One thing that's also interesting is that this power supply fan connector job here, I've never seen anything like that before. You'd expect that this big fan here would have connected to the motherboard, but no, it looks like it's actually like either bundled up over in there and it's connected to a Molex connector on the other side of the case, or, you know, they just hardwired it into the power supply and they just hid the excess wire behind there. I'm not really sure. I mean, all the wires are coming out of the power supply except for this bundle, which runs back in there. So my guess is they hooked up a fan adapter and they just connected over Molex or something. I'm really not sure. It's just bizarre. Cable management's actually pretty good in this system too. I'm quite surprised. And what's nice is that if I don't like what's in here, I can actually just take this out, because I have another full ATX motherboard that's based on a newer socket AM2 Plus, which I'd rather put into a much nicer case than the one it's in now. And that could probably make for a pretty decent build as well, given that I have a bunch of light up fans that are in that other case that, you know, I could probably put one there and one there, and I could have light up purple fans, which would be pretty cool. But I don't know. That depends on how well this thing would turn out. I'm not sure. I just bought it mainly for the case and, you know, parts, because I would like to have another PCI Express graphics card. I'm in the desperate need for more IDE hard drives. The RAM's nice. I don't really need the RAM. I have plenty of DDR RAM, but it's nice to have additional DDR memory. Floppy drives are always accepted here, and IDE optical drives are also always accepted, just because I can never have too many of those things. Well, you could, but obviously I don't really care. For those curious, there is the Marvell Gigabit onboard Ethernet controller. Right down there is the Realtek AC97 audio based on that ALC, what is that, a 850 codec, I think that is. There is some kind of super I/O controller or low pin count I/O controller down there. That's my guess on the WinBond chip. That or it's that ITE chip there, because obviously none of those are the BIOS. I think the BIOS is right there, and there's also a little 2-digit display, or yeah, 2-character display, which is an 8-segment or something like that. I don't know how you're supposed to tell those things apart. I'm not really sure. I'm sorry, I'm butchering things. I'm just not in the, you know, not in the computer-centric mood, but, you know, whatever. This motherboard was probably not cheap back when it was new, back in probably 2004 or 2005, probably 2005. So it's pretty interesting. There's just plenty of jumpers and things everywhere on this motherboard. It's pretty interesting, so not bad. I mean, for $10, I mean, I really can't complain. So let's go ahead and button up the side panel here, and we'll get it fired up, and we'll see what's on the hard drive. I've not modified the software yet on this system, so I definitely know for a fact it's running Windows XP, but that's all I'm going to spoil for now. I mean, it's really not that exciting anyway, but I just figured I'd boot it up just for the sake of booting it up so you guys know it works. Coming soon to a Jordan Wooler YouTube channel near you. Anyway, that's half the fun of this video. Let's go ahead and turn this thing on and see what it does. Not the quietest thing, apparently. You can see PCX 750, 750 there. Pretty interesting motherboard BIOS. I don't know what the setup key is. I guess it's one of those. I guess I'll figure out if that actually gets us into the BIOS. Yeah, pretty interesting splash screen there. Based on a Grantdale chipset, apparently, according to the BIOS. let's see. There's that RAID BIOS thing that's popping up there. You can see. Apparently only one of the hard drives is showing up. That's interesting. Press escape or S to continue booting. Oh, I guess it's doing it already. Oh, we did make it into the BIOS. Nice. So, yeah, apparently only one of the hard drives is popping up. I guess it's probably got multiple partitions, you know, at least according to Windows. Also got a gig of RAM. Delay prior to thermal. Well, that's interesting. I guess it's got something to do with the Pentium 4 that's in this thing. Yeah, I'm not sure what the point is of having those drives in there. It's kind of confusing because it's not really like showing the other drive properly. Smart's disabled for, Smart's disabled, yeah, Smart's disabled for some reason. I don't know what I'm doing. Whatever. I'll probably make this thing not boot up, which seems to always be what happens on my videos. Some kind of RAID boot ROM, whatever. Some kind of other stuff in there I won't dink with right now. Initialize display and the PCI Express first. CPU, I'm not surprised, is running at 39 degrees Celsius. It's kind of a Pentium 4, what do you expect? And it's not even overclocked either. Yeah, I think that's stock speed. So, yeah, I probably won't dink with that just because I think that's stock speed. So, okay, so let's go ahead and let this go through its motions of boot up. Yeah, PCX 5750. I think that's a different version of the FX series card or something or another. I think it's like the FX 5750. I don't even know if they ever made a FX 5750. I'll have to look that card up and see what it has in it. I'll just press escape to continue booting. No sense in waiting for the timer. Yeah, there's really not a whole lot on this computer to speak of. It looked as if it was pretty well cleaned out by the original owner. Either that or they just really didn't use it for much. I'm going to turn that sound down because it's cranked up quite a bit. And Mom's walking in the door, so I'm going to go ahead and shut the camera off for just a moment. Okay, so I fixed the screen resolution, so the proper for this monitor. Yeah, as you can see, Intel Pentium 4, 3.2 gigahertz, and a single gigabyte of RAM. I'll go ahead and head into the device manager here real quick. For some reason, the Ethernet controller has been disabled. I don't know why, but my guess is they're using something else. I'm really not sure. But either way, you can see now it's getting connection to the internet. NVIDIA GeForce PCX 5750. Otherwise, there's really not much to say inside of the device manager. There's nothing really exciting to look at. Just mostly your basic Intel 915 stuff. We'll take a look at the graphics card adapter. It's based on some kind of NV chipset with 128 megs of video memory. And again, I'm not really entirely sure what it's based on. I'm not entirely sure, because it could be based on the FX 5000 series, it could be based on the 6000 series, it could be based on something entirely different. I'm really not sure. Although what I am curious about, I'm going to see what ancient version... Oh my god, yeah, this is old. Wow, Avast free antivirus that expired February 14th, 2014. So this is a definitely old version of Avast antivirus. Wow, that's impressive. Although I will say, I like this interface a lot better than the newer ones because it's just so much faster. Yes, go ahead and register the free version, whatever. Whatever. Oh, no way, it actually... it just registered it again. Oh my goodness. 90 days of free. Oh my god, that's funny. Oh well. Apparently it's also downloading updates in the background now that I've enabled the internet, so... Yeah, I'll probably let that do its thing. This looks to be a pretty clean copy of Windows XP. Nothing too crazy on it, although... Given what I see right here, I'm going to go and point the camera away. You know, there's a CCleaner registry file, and the downloader for Avast, and that's it. In terms of the backup folder, well, there's nothing in there. Yeah, there's literally like nothing in here, so this computer's basically clean. But I don't think I'm going to keep this install of Windows. I think what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to do a clean copy of Windows XP Professional or Media Center Edition, and I'm probably just going to turn this thing into a Windows XP box. Although that is not confirmed yet, because again, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this thing, because I had plans of wanting to rebuild that other system with the AM2 Plus motherboard into this case, because it needs a new, that motherboard needs a better case. And with that, I was going to build a kind of an era-appropriate Windows Vista system with that particular computer, or at least something that would be more usable than what it's in now. I mean, I'd just treat it with a little bit more care, I guess. I don't know. But anyway. So yeah, that's about it. That's about all I can really say for this thing, because there's really nothing else to look at, so... other than maybe the Office 2007, which, honestly, that's nice, but, you know, I don't really need it, so I'm going to go ahead and, whatever, turn it off, install updates, sure, why not. And, I don't know. Let me know in the comments section if you want me to kind of do something with this computer, or keep it, or scrap it, or whatever. I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And with that, that ends this video, so thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in a newer video. Ciao.